The war had lasted 9 years. 9 years of ash and fire, of broken alliances and shattered moons, of men and women bleeding into alien soil that did not know their names and did not care. The planet Varos was not worth dying for. Everyone knew it, and everyone kept dying there anyway, because that is what wars do. They continue long after the reason is forgotten. Commander Kael Drayden had survived all 9 years. He stood now at the edge of the Coalition's forward base, a flat stretch of military tents and armored vehicles pressed into the gray cracked desert like an ugly scar. The sky above was the color of a bruise, purple fading into dark blue at the horizon, where the twin moons of Varos hung heavy and pale. Smoke drifted from the wreckage of 3 destroyed crawler tanks half a mile east, the last evidence of yesterday's engagement. Kael was 34 years old. He had the posture of someone who had stopped expecting good news and had simply learned to function without it. His armor was scorched at the left shoulder. There was dried blood on his glove that was not his. His face was unreadable, not because he felt nothing, but because he had learned, long ago, that showing feeling in front of General Harmon was like showing water to a man who collected it in containers. He would take it and use it against you. Commander Drayden. Harmon's voice cut through the base like a blade through paper. The general was standing on the elevated command platform, silver rank pins catching the gray morning light, his broad face arranged into an expression of practiced generosity. Around him, soldiers stood at attention. Officers watched. Everyone was an audience. You completed the mission, Harmon announced. The Vori signal tower on Ridge 9 is destroyed. Communication between their northern and southern clans is severed. You did in 4 days what 30 of our best soldiers failed to do in 6 months. He paused for applause that came, obedient, hollow. The Coalition honors its soldiers. Bring them forward. The tent flap opened. 2 figures were pushed out by armed guards. Kael looked at them and felt something shift behind his ribs. Not attraction, not pity, but something older than both of those things. Recognition, maybe. The recognition of one caged thing for another. The first was Lyra. She was Navori, tall, broad-shouldered, built like someone who had trained for war since childhood because she had. Her skin was the deep blue of the ocean at night, marked across her cheekbones and jaw with thin silver tribal lines that curved and branched like the roots of something living. Her hair fell in dozens of long black braids past her shoulders. Her eyes were amber, sharp, burning, the color of fire seen through smoke, and they swept the crowd with open contempt. Her wrists were bound with Coalition restraint cord. She wore her battle armor still, dark and layered, crafted from vori bone metal, cracked in 2 places from recent combat. She did not stumble as the guard pushed her. She simply absorbed the push and kept walking with the unhurried stride of someone who had decided that dignity was the only weapon left to her, and she would not surrender it. The second was Saya. She moved differently, quieter, more internal. Her skin was silver blue, almost luminous in the pale morning light, and her long white hair fell unbound around her shoulders and down her back. She had the same pointed ears as all Navori, the same strong jaw, but her face was softer in its arrangement, not weaker, but built for a different kind of strength. There were blue tattoo lines running from her left shoulder down her forearm, curling around her wrist like a living script. Her eyes, when they rose from the ground, were dark gray and very still, the stillness of deep water, the stillness of someone who thinks before they move, always, in every situation. Both women were brought to their knees in the gray sand. Saya looked down. Lyra looked forward. General Harmon smiled the smile that never touched his eyes. Commander Drayden, he said, spreading his arms wide. As per Coalition Reward Protocol 7, in recognition of exceptional service, you are granted the right to claim 1 prisoner of war as a personal bonded companion. A reward, freely given. He gestured toward the 2 women. Choose one. Kael walked forward. He walked slowly, deliberately, because he was thinking, not performing thought, but actually thinking, which was a different thing entirely. He stopped 3 feet in front of the 2 women and looked at them. Not the way Harmon looked at them. Not the way the watching soldiers looked at them. He looked at them the way you look at something true when you are trying to understand what it is telling you. Lyra met his gaze first.
Direct.
Measuring. Her amber eyes moved across his face with the cold precision of someone reading a map and deciding whether the territory can be trusted. She gave him nothing. She waited. Saya looked up a moment later. And in that moment, just before she steadied her expression, Kael saw it. Not weakness.
Pain.
Real, deep, quiet pain. The kind that lives behind the eyes of people who have already lost too much and are bracing for more. She glanced once at Lyra, one brief, small glance, and in that glance was an entire language. I am here. Whatever happens, I am here. They were bonded, not by capture.
By choice.
Kael turned around and faced General Harmon.
I've decided, he said.
Harmon smiled. Go on. I want both of them released into my unit. The smile disappeared like a light switched off. That is not. Protocol 7 does not specify a single prisoner, General. I've read the text. Kael's voice was flat, factual, immovable. Additionally, and I assume your intelligence team did read the full capture report, the taller one is Lyra, third daughter of Clan Chief Orin of the Northern Ridge Vori. If she disappears into a coalition base as a private reward and word reaches Orin's council, we lose the Dusk River ceasefire by morning. That's 4 border clans back in active combat.
He paused.
Your choice. The silence that followed lasted exactly 4 seconds. Harmon nodded once. Stiffly, like a man swallowing something unpleasant. Release them both. The guards cut the restraint cords. Lyra rose in a single smooth motion, immediate, controlled, like water resuming its natural shape after being forced into a narrow channel. Saya stood beside her. Together they were formidable, and they both knew it, and they both chose, in this moment, to be still. Kael stepped toward them and spoke quietly enough that only they could hear. You're assigned to my unit. Not as prisoners. Not as property. He looked at each of them in turn. Walk where you want. Fight if you want. Leave if you want. I only ask one thing. Give me 1 week before you decide I'm not worth the trouble. Saya studied his face carefully. Then she said, in the accented musical tones of the Vori Highlands, You did not choose us because of the protocol. It was not a question. No, Kael said. Then why? He was quiet for a moment. In the distance, wind moved through the wreckage of the crawler tanks, making the metal groan like something remembering pain. Because the war has been wrong for a long time, he said. And I'm tired of being one more piece of it. Lyra looked at him for a long moment. The longest she had looked at anything since her capture, the longest and the stillest. Then, slowly, she brought her right fist to her chest, the Navori gesture that does not mean gratitude and does not mean friendship. It means something more careful, more earned than either of those things. It means, I see you. I will watch you. And if you remain what you appear to be, I will stand beside you. Kael nodded. And the 3 of them turned and walked together into the base, not as captor and captives, not as soldier and prizes, but as 3 people who had each, in their own way, survived the same war from opposite sides and had decided, in this one gray morning on the cracked desert floor of Varos, to try something the war had never offered any of them before. A beginning. The twin moons of Varos watched from above, cold, ancient, and silent. But even the moons, had they memory, would have marked this moment. Not because it was loud, not because it was dramatic, but because it was the first honest thing that had happened on this planet in 9 years.